Hi, everybody. Welcome to Christian Homestead. My name is Jared. So, there's a few things I want to talk about in this live stream. I think I want to do more live streams because I really enjoy them. It has a different feel. I feel like some of you enjoy live streams. There's some people that seem to always be ready for a live stream because they show up in every single one that I do. And not just on my channel, I see them on other channels. But did you see this post by Trump on his Truth Social? Oh, gotta. Sorry, I always feel like I have everything set up and then I'm missing something. Have you seen have you seen this post that he did? It's been deleted, and there's been a lot of controversy over it, as you would probably expect. Essentially, it depicts him almost as like a messianic figure, very similar to Christ, at least as far as his attire goes, and the fact that it looks like he's blessing a man in the hospital with light coming out of his hands, and then some kind of military soldier angels in the sky. In the sky. We're going to talk about this. We're not going to exclusively focus on this post from Trump because it's not like he's the only one that's ever done or said something sacrilegious, but I want to just kind of discuss this concept of Jesus Christ and American presidents, because we know that the Lord has a special relationship with the United States. The reason why the United States exists, according to our doctrine, is because the church needed a place to be restored. And we also know that this is the land of Zion, both North and South America, according to Joseph Smith. But on top of that, we have here in Missouri, Joseph Smith identified this as the site of the Garden of Eden here in Independence, Jackson County. And then Adam-ondi-Ahman, where Adam and Eve dwelt after being cast out of the Garden of Eden. And then the Lord has brought various groups to the Americas after having taken humanity to the quote-unquote old world. You've had groups that have come back, such as the Jaredites, as well as Lehi and his descendants, and like the Mulek and stuff. So it's a special place, and the Lord has given specific warnings to the people, the inhabitants of this land, that we're supposed to be righteous, that that's really key for this area is righteousness and having a free people, and that things can always change if the people turn to wickedness. And when it comes to presidents of the United States, I don't know. It's just, I think that we got to be really careful. I wasn't really a big fan at all of this post. In fact, I find it kind of offensive, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. In fact, let me go ahead and go to the chat and see who's here. Right now, we just have the haystack in the chat. The haystack says, look at the meaning of Pharaoh and the meaning of America or Amerigo. Makes things make much more sense. Yeah, I could see that. It's interesting because you have the church today, most of which, at least here in the United States, I would assume, most of which are from Ephraim and Manasseh, so the sons of Joseph. And in the biblical account, he went to Egypt because, well, he was sold there, and then he rose in status and power because of how his story played out. And because he was in Egypt and he had the position that he was able to save his family, who, were in the old land. And he was able to gather them in, bring them to Egypt to save them temporarily. And yeah, nowadays we have Joseph, so to speak, here in the Americas, headquartered in the United States, and with the charge to gather scattered Israel and to save them spiritually, and in some cases temporally too, because the church does a lot to help people temporally. Let me look at the poll really quick. I put a poll in the chat if you're watching this live. The question was, was Trump's AI image intentional or unintentional? So far, there's 17 votes. 71% say yes, and then 29% say no. Okay, so it turns out that Trump has responded to this, and he said it was a mistake. Let me see if I think this article talks about it. Yeah. So I'm looking at a Politico article. I saw, the video where he talked about this, but I'm just going to read this from Politico. The White House did not immediately respond to requests for comment on either the criticism or deleting the post, but Trump denied any reference to Jesus, telling reporters at the White House Monday that he thought he was being depicted as a doctor in the image he shared. Quote, I did post it. So that's interesting. He admits that he posted it. And, the way that it works with these social media accounts with celebrities, politicians, public figures, my understanding is that the vast majority of the time, the things that are being posted are done by people that work for them. If it's like a musician or something, it's somebody that works for the studio or something like that. I guess I'm not too familiar with Trump and how much of what is posted is done by him, himself, or done by others. There was another post not too long ago, I think it was a few months ago, in which he did I think it was a kind of an AI video, and it depicted all of his political enemies as animals. And there was a part that was really bad where it had the Obamas as chimpanzees or something like that. And in that case, I seem to remember that what was said is that he didn't post that himself. It was somebody that was posting for him. In fact, let me see if I can look that up. Trump, Obama, monkey post. Let's see. Okay, I got it right here. We're looking at PBS News. The name of the article is Trump's racist post about Obama's is deleted after backlash despite White House earlier defending it. President Donald Trump's social media post featuring former President Barack Obama and his wife Michelle Obama as primates in a jungle was deleted after a backlash from both Americans and Democrats who criticized the video as racist. The Republican president's Thursday night post was deleted Friday and blamed on a staffer after widespread backlash. So between these two incidents, it looks like that's a difference. In that case, it was blamed on a staffer. But with this one, if I go back to the Politico, no wait, yeah, here we go. The Politico article. This is a quote, and I heard him say it. You have to, okay, so when it comes to these different news outlets, obviously they're going to be biased one way or another. That doesn't mean that they can't report truth or capture accurate quotes. You just have to use common sense and be able to detect when they're using bias. But here's a quote in Politico, and I heard Trump say this in a video. I did post it, and I thought it was me as a doctor. It had to do with Red Cross. Only the fake news media could come up with that. He added, it's supposed to be me as a doctor making people better. So you guys, listen, listen to me carefully. I voted for Trump. Okay. But just because you vote for somebody doesn't mean that you have to stick 100% to everything that they do, or if they do something wrong, that you have to cover it up for them. When you do things like that, you're denying reality. You are constructing an alternate reality, and you're playing a game, which politics is. A lot of people treat politics like a big game where you're on one team and then other people are on the other team, and then you have to do whatever it takes to win. In every arena, in every battle, in every fight, every skirmish, you do what it takes to win. You never accept blame. You never admit anything wrong. That's how a lot of people do politics, and it's wrong. That's how a lot of people do life. They never admit that they're wrong. Or if they do something wrong, they'll try and cover it up. They'll try and edit reality. They'll blame somebody else. That's not the way that we should live our lives. You can believe him if you want, that he thought that he was depicting himself as a doctor. You certainly do have the hospital imagery at the bottom with like the nurse and then the guy in a what are they called? Hospital gown and hospital bed. But I don't think that any person with a brain could look at Trump depicted here with red robes and then white, like a white robe underneath, and not make the connection between that and Jesus Christ, or that and maybe a prophetic figure, a spiritual figure. I mean, for goodness sake, you have light coming out of his hands, and it looks like he's giving that man a blessing. Doctors, as far as I know, doctors don't give blessings as like a medical treatment after they diagnose somebody with some kind of disease. Unless that's like new, like are doctors starting to give blessings now? And if they are, I guess I'd have to ask, by what power are they giving blessings? So it's interesting. He owned this, and he made it seem as though he put it together himself. He didn't mention any staffers or anything like that. And it's in poor taste. I voted for him. It's in poor taste. You don't have to find excuses for your political party or people that you like. You don't have to find excuses for anybody, not even yourself. Let's stick to reality. Could you forgive him for, making a bad decision? Like, we all make mistakes. Is that what happened here? I don't know. Look, I'm just going to be real. Trump, for sure, he's a narcissist. That doesn't mean that it was bad to vote for him. It doesn't mean that he can't do a good job as president. I think generally he is doing a good job. I was pleased with his first term. But that doesn't mean that he's not, like, personally not a narcissist. And I'm not just going off of my own observations. That's what many people have said that are professionals. And when it comes to narcissism, this is how they view themselves. Like, I'm talking about clinical, like chronic, what's it called? People who actually have the disorder. They're like clinically diagnosed as narcissists. This is how they view themselves, in very grandiose ways. And if you really look into it and study it, and you listen to professionals that know about it, people that have this kind of disorder, they are very, very grandiose. So it doesn't surprise me. This really is, again, I don't know. Only the Lord knows his heart. But if we're talking about narcissists in general, this is a great depiction of how they genuinely view themselves. It's just kind of odd. There was something that J.D. Vance said. He said that it was a joke. So there you're getting like a different story. Trump said that he thought he was being depicted as a doctor. Although I don't know. I haven't had any doctors that look like that. And then J.D. Vance says that it was a joke. If it was a joke, it's not a good joke. It's offensive. For you and me, we should hold the Savior above everything else, right? We're supposed to put God first. He is our most respected, revered entity, thing in our life, above everything else. It's like the American flag in the background there. If you're an American citizen, the American flag is sacred. You treat it with respect. There's a certain way that you fold it when you're putting it away for storage. If it touches the ground, you're supposed to burn it. There's all these different, I don't know where you find it, but there's like, I don't know if you call them regulations, but there's like some kind of like official thing put out where there's like these published guidelines of how to treat the flag, like how to display it, how to fold it, how to dispose of it, like things like that, because it represents something sacred, the United States. And so even more than the United States and even more than the flag is our Savior, Jesus Christ. It's not something that you should joke about. At least like, look, sometimes you can have kind of like lighthearted, silly jokes. They're more like on the mild side that I think are fine. Like I know that you've heard them in church before. Maybe you've made some jokes yourself. Like you're teaching a class and you're reading a story about Christ, and then you just make like a little cute joke. But there is a line that you cross at some point where it goes beyond what's appropriate and it becomes a mockery. It becomes blasphemous. And I feel like this crossed that line. I don't think it's funny at all to depict yourself in place of the Savior. This is a very Christ-looking picture because this is one of like the typical ways that he's depicted is with, the red robe. And I think for our church, for sure, that's usually done in reference to the second coming. And I think other churches probably do the same because, him wearing red at his second coming comes from the Bible. But, red robe, blessing a man, light coming out of his hand, weird angels in the sky above. Like if it's a joke, it's in very, very poor taste. Not happy about it, but if it'll make you happy, I would like to talk about something that Biden did, and I'd like to maybe do a little bit of research, some quick research using Grok, because I'm sure that many presidents of the United States have done or said similar things that are disrespectful. Okay, let me get to the chat. Now we have some more people here. Shiny Nickel says his apparel is also very similar to the Pope. So it was suggested he was mocking the Pope. Yeah, that could be. Although that's still something I feel like, and I'm not trying to rub anybody the wrong way or tell you that you're wrong, as I read your chats and stuff. We all are free to have our own opinion and view of things. But I've said before on the channel that even with other religions, I think that you should be respectful. I always try and be respectful whenever I talk to Jews. Like, obviously, we have a big difference with the Jews. We believe that Jesus Christ was the Messiah that they're still waiting for. And sometimes I see some of them being very disrespectful toward Christ or toward Christians in Israel. I'm actually kind of stunned by the number of videos that there are of um, Israeli Jews in Jerusalem that will like spit on nuns or Christians or do different things. So anyway, the point is I think that we need to be respectful toward all religions. There's no excuse for mocking the Pope. I don't like it here. In fact, let me pull up a picture really quick. I don't like it here in Independence when people mock like Community of Christ, for example. I'm pulling up this picture really quick. This is a picture that I took yesterday, last night. It was a really hard day, and I needed to get out of the house. And one great thing that was going on is that there was a storm. It was coming in, and we were under a tornado watch. And I was keeping an eye on it with max velocity. And I just like being out like before a storm hits. Like, I love the feeling in the air. It kind of gets a little bit cool. There's like a temperature shift and maybe the humidity kind of changes, but there's like a certain feeling before a storm that just feels nice, especially when it's warm. It was like 79, 80, 81 degrees while we were driving around. So it was just like nice, after having got done with winter. And we drove by the temple lot because there was like an amazing sunset, and the sun was behind me at this point. We're looking east, and you just had these clouds being lit up by the sunset. But I've heard so many like disrespectful things about the Community of Christ temple. Usually in the form of like wordplay, puns, different things. And I don't think it's in good taste. That doesn't mean that you can't criticize other religions in a respectful way and in a rational way. But like, again, there's sometimes a line that you cross when it becomes disrespectful and it, your things start to go into the gutter the way that your mind is thinking. I really, really don't like, for example, you have like, this is like a Halloween classic where you have like a couple that'll dress up, one person as a Catholic priest and another person as a Catholic nun, and the nun comes with like a pregnant belly, and so the implication is that the priest and the nun did something that they weren't supposed to do, and it's just very sacrilegious, and it's hurtful. If I was Catholic, that would upset me. I guarantee you, if I was Catholic, I would be a devout Catholic. If I was Jewish, I would probably be Orthodox, maybe even Haredi, maybe. If I was Muslim, I would take whatever religion I would take it very seriously, because I have genuine faith and genuine beliefs, and it's not good to make fun of other people's beliefs and things that they hold sacred. So anyway, let me go back to the chat. Thanks for the comment, Shiny Nickel. Scott B. I happen to be a member of the church and quote unquote Trump guy, but the AI image is clearly too much and inappropriate. I happen to think he's done good things for America, but he tends to be a controversy magnet. Yeah. And, it's not, the thing about it is like, it's not just as simple as like, okay, he did this, now I'm never going to vote for him again. Or now I'm going to change political parties. You have to take a holistic, thoughtful approach when it comes to politics. And you can't just fly off the handle when somebody does something wrong. So Would I vote for him again? Right now, I'm thinking that I probably would, but like this is not helping. Like if he continues to do this, another thing that another thing that wasn't so great. I can't even show it because it has swear words. But another thing that wasn't so great is on Easter, he posted something where he dropped the F-bomb and he used some language that is kind of a mockery somewhat of Islam, if you view it a certain way. Well, it probably is just flat out mockery of Islam. But like on Easter, you know, he posted something like that on Easter. It had to do with Iran. It was like a threat toward Iran to open up the Strait of Hormuz. And it had this profanity in it. And just profanity in general is not good coming from a president of the United States. We should hold them to a higher standard. I know there's been all sorts of like scandals in the past with presidents and politicians, but still, in an ideal world, we hold them to a higher standard. They should be an example of what's best about America or whatever country you're from, or state or territory or whatever. They need to be held to a higher standard, and I don't think it's okay for them to swear. Like they're allowed to. They're humans, but I think that it's unbecoming, especially of a president of the United States, to use a really bad swear word like the F word. So I think what you need to do is you have to ask like, okay, I only get these two options at election time. Which one do I think is going to be best for number one? Which one is going to be best for the Lord and his work? Which one is going to protect religious freedom? Which one is going to help the country live righteously? Things like that. So it's complicated, and I have no problem voting Democrat if I feel like that person is going to do a better job at protecting those things. Or if I feel like they're going to keep the country from going down a dark path, then I will. I'll vote Democrat. I'll vote whoever I think is going to do the best job. The church has warned that we should not just strictly vote along party lines. You need to use your brain. Not all Republicans are good. Not all Democrats are good or bad. It's not, you can't use the black and white thinking. There are good people on both sides. And sometimes the person that's opposite of your party is actually the better choice for some, reason. Maybe on one particular really important reason. Okay. I'm going to have to catch up with the chat. Sorry. Feel free to repost if I miss your comment and you wanted to say something. Lind Ann Cromer says, I don't think he realized what the reaction would be. I voted for Trump, but sometimes he doesn't think before he speaks or posts. Well, maybe he thought, maybe he just miscalculated, and in his mind, he thought that his team, which includes many, many Christians, they would like see through it and be like, oh yeah, this isn't a serious mockery of Jesus Christ. He's like, we hold him up here with Jesus Christ. Because I think some people do. I think he has reason to believe that this image is okay with some people, because some people do put him on that high of a pedestal. It's people that kind of fuse religion and politics together, and maybe sometimes put politics above religion. So yeah, it seems that he made a miscalculation. In my opinion, he knew what this looked like. I don't believe him that he thought that this was him as a doctor. Again, no one with a brain would look at that and be like, oh, look, it's a doctor putting light. It's a doctor doing the new light treatment, putting light in this person's forehead to cure him of brain cancer. No one with a brain is going to look at this picture and think that that's a doctor. So I don't believe him. And he should. It's always so much better when you just own up to a mistake. It doesn't matter how. I know it can be depending on the mistake, it can be hard to own up to your mistakes, but it's so much better because then people know that they can trust you. You know, for example, I'll do it right now. Look, I've already done this before, but early on in my channel, let me pull it up. Hold on. I am sorry about it, though. I know I'm laughing, but I am sorry about it. His living second coming. I think this is it. Hold on. Baptisms. No, this is not it. Let's see. Robert L. Millet. Baptisms for the dead in the Holy Land. Why can't I find it? I feel like... Oh, wait, here we go. I think this is it. Yeah. Okay, so early in my channel, I was in the process of seeing what had already been published about the Second Coming from all sources, including LDS Living. And there was this article by Robert L. Millet. I recently talked about him, I think in a couple videos, because I came across a speech of his for, what was it for? Sperry Symposium or something. But there was like this really interesting talk that I'm still going through because he had a lot of interesting things to say and a lot of interesting sources that I wanted to check out. And early on in my channel, he had written this for LDS Living, 7 things that still need to happen before the world ends. And one of the things that he put was number 3, baptisms for the dead need to take place in the Holy Land. And I read this and I didn't agree with it. And I probably did not talk about this as respectfully as I should have, because I just felt like I couldn't disagree more with this. I still to this day don't really understand how he came to this conclusion, but I respect him, and he's a scholar. He's not like, he's a smart person, but I still disagree. But the video that I did, I criticized this and it wasn't good. And so I apologize. And even my apology was not it should have been more mature. I tried to make light of it, but you just own up to your mistakes and you say sorry. And you know, I say sorry then, and I say sorry now to Robert L. Millet, because it's really clear that he's done a lot of really good work during his career, and he's talked a lot about the Second Coming. There's just this one thing that I don't think I agree with. Maybe I have to look at it closer. It's been a long time since I've looked at this. Maybe I need to look at it again, and then I'll be like, oh yeah, I see where he's coming from. So you just admit your mistake. I shouldn't have been like that. I shouldn't have made those videos, and I'm not going to do it again. And now I'm a better person. So if I were Trump, I would probably do something more like, you know, yeah, that was in bad taste. I shouldn't have done that. I'm going to be careful not to do that again. And then I would maybe explain, like, look, I thought that more people would be okay with this. I didn't think it was going to really offend. I thought people would view it as a joke, but I can see where this would be a sensitive topic or a sensitive thing. So that's just how you should do life. Just own up to when you do something wrong. The Crawdad X says, I was reading Elder Lund's Second Coming book, and the correlation between these current events go very well with what he shares from his perspective in the scriptures. That's cool. I haven't read his books, but I know that he's done a lot of work too. Okay, let me take a drink. Let's see. Oh, by the way, I'm just going to do this a couple more times. So I recently partnered with Tiny 3D Temples. They make tiny 3D temples, but they also make other products, including things like this. This is a Easter creche countdown. Sorry if you've already seen this, but I think that this is a really good thing. This is a really good way to celebrate Holy Week in the Easter season. The church has been talking about how we need to take Easter and Holy Week more seriously in the whole Easter season. And so they have this product here. It's a countdown. It starts on Palm Sunday, and then you go day by day through Holy Week, and then it ends on Easter. And then over here, there's a little thing that you pull back on that day, and you reveal the resurrected Christ. And then as you can see, it has all the different scenes from Holy Week, or at least the key scenes: Palm Sunday, the Last Supper, Christ carrying his cross, Christ in Gethsemane, the resurrection with Mary right here. And then you have the ascension of Jesus Christ, or if you will, in the way that I look at it, the second coming. So 15% off if you use the link that's in the description box of this video. 15% off. Oh, it also lights up and there's music. There's like a box back here that you plug in. It lights up and it has music. I will probably bring that up in one more video, but I'm really happy that I have mine. My family really likes it, and we're trying to think of ways to make Easter more Christ-focused and less on things like the Easter bunny and eggs and chicks and flowers and all this stuff that people have been doing for a long time. I don't even want to do those things anymore, really. We're still going to do egg hunts, but we need more things like this, like the Easter creche countdown. Okay. Nick F. Ledbetter. He also did an incredible video all about the Savior in Easter. Don't cherry pick. Yeah, true. Sorry, I didn't see that, but I'm not trying to cherry pick. But yeah, we should not cherry pick, because let's talk about Trump and other things that he's done. I don't have any specific examples, but I know that he has really stressed, the phrase like "God bless America" and thanking God and things like that. In fact, I think, let's see, there's like that Trump arch, right? There's like a arch that he wants to do. Let me see if I can find a picture of it. And I want to say that, oh my gosh, I need a larger image. Sorry, let me see if I can find this. Okay, tools, size, large. And then I'm going to open this up in a separate tab. I think that this is the final design, because I think there were a few different designs that they were considering, but they want to do like a triumphal arch in Washington, D.C. I'm all for that. I love monuments. I love architecture and monuments and memorials and things like that. And you can see at the top here, it says "One Nation Under God." Trump has talked about this a lot. Again, it may just be because it's kind of manipulation, because uh, if you pick a team, if you want to do the game of politics, you pick a team and then um, please the people that are on your team. So I don't know. I don't know what's in his heart. I don't know what he actually believes. I know what he says. A lot of us say lots of things, but only God in us ourselves know what we actually believe and what we actually feel. But on the surface, with as much as he stresses God and the importance of God, it's really good. So yeah, that's really good. So one nation under God, and I guess that's like the Statue of Liberty or something that looks like the Statue of Liberty, but it has wings, which, that's fine. I don't know if I like the wings, but that's okay. I think it'd be better without the wings. Do you guys like it better with wings or without wings? So if you like it better with wings, type wings. And then if you like it better without wings, put no wings. I wonder if anybody else thinks the same way that I do. I think it would look better without wings. All right. So yeah, we shouldn't cherry pick. With everything, we should be as holistic as possible. Supa Mama or Supa Mamax 3 says it was not a mistake. Yeah, let's look at the poll. So I did a poll. You can still take this if you're watching this live. Was Trump's AI image intentional or unintentional? There's so far 68 votes, and 79% say yes, that it was intentional, and 21% say no. Coastal Gardening says the original picture was posted by Nick Adams. The soldier with angelic wings top center is replaced by a demon in the picture Trump posted. Also, the fish near the belt line has its head bitten off in the Trump repost. Weird symbolism. Oh, weird. I guess I didn't notice those kind of details. Let me see. So yeah, this angel up here in the center, that's kind of weird. It has like horns that look evil. I don't really see a fish, but I haven't seen that original that you're talking about. But it may be that it may just be that when he was creating this AI post, he wasn't like necessarily, well, maybe, okay. So when you do AI images, depending on what service you're using, sometimes you can give the AI a reference image and be like, okay, take this image, but add myself and add this and add that. Take this away, take that away. I've done that for a few of my thumbnails. In fact, the video today, the thumbnail, I had a reference image, and then I wanted the AI to add some stuff to the back to make the image look more interesting. But when you do that, the AI will still like change things that you didn't intend for it to change. So that could be what happened. He may have been using a reference image, and then the AI it did some like random things. So it may not be that Trump was like, make that angel at the top look evil. We need to, change that. So I don't know if I would go that far. Maybe he did. I don't know. Oh, we have Cabria here. Will you walk with Jesus? Make sure to subscribe to her. She says, if he claims to be Christian, he knows what those robes symbolize. I found the post intentional and deeply in poor taste. Yeah, I would tend to agree. We should do an interview soon, Cabria. Everyone make sure to subscribe to her channel. Will you walk with Jesus? Now, I wanted to talk about, there was like a kind of, well, what I felt was a misstep with Biden, or something that he probably shouldn't have said. Let's see, what do I search for? Biden drop out of race if the Lord himself comes down, or something like that. Yeah, here we go. Do you guys remember this? Let me know if you remember this. So we're just looking at this BBC article. Only the Lord Almighty could convince me to quit Biden. So oh, great. I have to subscribe to read this. So I wonder if he was convinced to quit. But this was just interesting because, like, at the time we were thinking, oh, wouldn't that be interesting if the second coming happens? And okay, fine, I'll take the ad blocker off. That's fine. People and organizations need to make money to provide services. I don't mind if there's ads. And sorry, I have to have ads on my videos. I can't do this much work if I didn't. I also welcome, super thanks, super chats, things like that. YouTube is like starting to be kind of weird. I'm not sure how much longer the channel will go. I hope it continues, but if you can support, then I would appreciate it. But anyway, Joe Biden has insisted that only the Lord Almighty, quote unquote, could persuade him to exit the U.S. presidential race in a potential make-or-break TV interview aimed at quelling a burgeoning rebellion in the Democratic Party. In other responses, his opponents may see as arrogant or out of touch. The 81-year-old claimed that he is, quote unquote, running the world, and no one is, quote unquote, more qualified to be president. Oh yeah, I think this is specifically the quote right here. Quote, look, I mean, if the Lord Almighty came down and said, Joe, get out of the race, I'd get out of the race, he said, his voice sounding strained after the rally. And then this was the part right here. The Lord Almighty's not coming down. Now that's where I wouldn't say it's as bad as this post by Trump. Well, maybe it is. I don't know. You can't say the Lord Almighty is not coming. You don't know what the Lord's going to do. I know that he wasn't like making a serious statement, but even still, I think that you should be careful with your words. You probably shouldn't say things like that. Because for all you know, the Lord Almighty might come down because it's time for the second coming, and then he's king of the world. And you're no longer running the world, quote unquote. I'm trying to think, can you guys think of any other times that a president of the United States has like done something that was blasphemous or said something about Jesus Christ or the Lord that they shouldn't have? Okay. It doesn't look like too many people responded to my wing question on that triumphal arch that they want to do in Washington, D.C. I was wondering if they should leave the wings on that Statue of Liberty. And Hollow Berries says wings. But that's the only vote. So Numbo Saksaba says, I can relate. I don't understand the idea of Easter eggs with a emoji and Easter bunnies. Some people say, I haven't really looked into it too much myself, but some people say that it has pagan origins, and I think that's probably true. I don't know. I'd have to look into it myself, but it has to do, I think, with like spring and rejuvenation and rebirth and fertility and things like that. Um, if you're looking at things kind of like those ancient pagan religions, you know, a lot of religions really have a big part of them have to do with like the cycle of the year. You know, even ours, like when it comes to harvest, um, you have all this harvest imagery in the Bible and even nowadays in the Doctrine and Covenants. So it's like you have a year where you have like the sun, and the sun is reborn every year at, you know, winter solstice essentially. The days get longer, life comes back, and then there's like full harvest, and then the sun starts to die, and there's like this cycle. And I think as part of that, when it comes to spring, th- those are like symbols of like rebirth, um, and the year coming back to life and the sun coming back, and I think it probably does have pagan origins. Super Mama Max says he contradicts himself constantly. It is ridiculous. Will You Walk with Jesus says, I agree. His Easter message about Christ was great, but to put this out shortly after feels pretty in poor taste to me. Wendy says, what does this have to do with being prepared for the second coming? It doesn't. Not everything on here has to be about the second coming. Although, you know, you could potentially look at this as a sign. If I was to put together a timeline of presidents of the United States and times that they were blasphemous, or crossed the line, well, if it's like picking up in frequency, then that could be a sign of the times, because God will not be mocked. You know, God will not be mocked. Joe Biden saying that the Lord Almighty is not coming down, whether he really meant it or if he was just kind of like tongue in cheek about it, that's not something that you should say, especially as president of the United States. Deb Cahill says, he's not a stupid man. He knows that's not a doctor. I voted for him, but that was no bueno. Wendy says, I already read that. Thanks for the comment though, Wendy. I'm not like trying to like go against you. Kiori, I have arrived. And then back to Wendy. The Savior says that you should forgive him. That is God's domain. Yeah, I don't think anyone here is not like forgiving him, but you can still look at a public figure and be like, I don't want my president doing things like this. Kenneth Barbier says, voting on the national level will always be a disappointment and dehumanizing. They will always go what's going to benefit the banker. Also know President Benson said since the U.S. joining the UN. Yeah, I don't know, maybe. Lynn Hansen, we are told to love each other, not judge each other. Well, you do have to talk about what's going on in politics, and as long as you're being respectful, you can talk about the news. Again, I don't know what's in his heart. I don't think that he thought that that was a picture of a doctor. Do doctors have light in their hand and put their hands on foreheads as though they're giving a blessing and wear red robes? I don't think so. Jason Leroy Wharton, in LDS theology, we are waiting for the branch Messiah from the house of Joseph. No. Sorry, I don't know what you're referring to. That sounds like a splinter group kind of thing. Shiny Nickel says no wings. Okay. So Shiny Nickel would rather have the Arch of Triumph without, like the Statue of Liberty figure without wings, like me. Kenneth Barbier. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that. The arch is satanic. Um, I don't know how it's satanic. Nick F. Ledbetter. Isn't it called the triumphant arch? Reminds me of the triumphant entry on Palm Sunday. Chrissy Shell. This just speaks to his vision of himself or his staff view of him. Very disturbing, especially when my country is helplessly tied to him because we are weaker than the U.S. Key G says, I thought his retweet was related to Moses/prophets because of Come Follow Me this week. I've seen lots of pictures with Moses in the same outfit. Kenneth Barbier says, a lot of world leaders have commissioned an arch. It comes from the Baal in Egypt. Sorry about my grammar. Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I think I've seen that before. I guess you'd have to really look into it because it's not like an arch is exclusively something that they did. Like it can only be done for Baal. I don't know if that's where they're drawing inspiration, but an arch is a very common shape. Like I could see how, like, if you make something now and it matches something in the past, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're connected, but I guess you'd have to go through the whole history and be like, oh yeah, in secret circles, we have documentation that says that they drew inspiration directly from what they did back then. Okay. Let's see. I want to move on to something else now. There were some posts I wanted to share or talk about. Yeah, there's been this thing between him and Pope Leo the 14th. And there was like a thing that was put out by the Vatican. I pulled up the letter. Let me see, where did that go? So there's like this thing between the Pope and Trump. There's this letter I wanted to read because Trump said, both Trump and Vance have been like, oh, the Pope should stick to the church and not talk about politics and things like that. In this letter that just came out, I think it was today. What's today, the 14th? This is a letter on like the Vatican website. Message of His Holiness Pope Leo the 14th to participants in the plenary session of the Pontifical Academy of Social Sciences. I likewise thank your President, Sister Helen Alford, for selecting the theme, the uses of power, legitimacy, democracy, and the rewriting of the international order. It is a particularly timely topic focusing our reflection on the exercise of power, which is a critical element for building peace within and among nations at this moment of profound global change. Catholic social teaching regards power. Now, as I read this, let's see if we agree with this, if this sounds like our church or not, our doctrine, and or are they off base here? Catholic social teaching regards power not as an end in itself, but as a means ordered toward the common good. This implies that the legitimacy of authority depends not on the accumulation of economic or technological strength, but on the wisdom and virtue with which it is exercised. For wisdom enables us to discern and pursue the truth. Here, I'll put it on the screen. Pursue the truth and good rather than apparent goods and vainglory amid the circumstances of daily life. Temperance, I'm going to skip down a little bit. Temperance also proves essential for the legitimate use of authority for true temperance restrains inordinate self-exaltation and acts as a guardrail against the abuse of power. This understanding of a legitimate power finds one of the highest expressions in authentic democracy. Far from being a mere procedure, democracy recognizes the dignity of every person and calls each citizen to participate responsibly in the pursuit of the common good. Reflecting this conviction, St. John Paul II affirmed that the Church values democracy because it ensures participation in political choices and the possibility both of electing and holding accountable those who govern them and the replacing them through peaceful means when appropriate. Democracy remains healthy, however, only when rooted in the moral law and a true vision of the human person. Lacking this foundation, it risks becoming either a majoritarian tyranny or a mask for the dominance of economic and technological elites. So, I just wanted to kind of read that and see what you think. Do you think that we're on a bad path right now? Do you think that everything that's going on right now in Iran is good? Do you think that we've overstepped our bounds? With the Iran war, so if we separate it, and I'm not so sure that it is separate from the Hamas attack in 2023, but if we separate it as its own separate conflict, which technically it is, it started with protests. It was, I don't know how many times there had been protests in the country before. Recently, there's a Wikipedia page that has all the different big protests that have taken place in Iran. But that's kind of like how it started out. And then there was like the amassing of military forces in the region. And then there was this underlying concern, and there's always been an underlying concern about Iran developing nuclear weapons. And so it seems like it all came to a head between the Hamas war and Iran getting close to having nuclear weapons and the protests in the country. It seems like it all came to a head and then military action was taken. Do you think that it was necessary? And also, I'll just put this question out there again. Do you think that it's going to lead to Armageddon somehow? We've been talking about that a lot on the channel. Like, could this in any way turn into Armageddon? It doesn't seem like it could, but it also continues to escalate. And every day there's some kind of new news coming out. Jason Leroy Wharton says, Book of Mormon warns us against preemptive wars. Do you have that particular scripture? Can you maybe post it in the chat if it's not too much trouble? I don't know if you're watching on your desktop. If not, it's fine. El Paculi says, President Nelson said we are in unprecedented, unparalleled times and that the future is bright. You need personal revelation to navigate it. Your safety and clarity come from personal revelation, not from guessing about political leaders. Lucy Woodstock, he just does things before he thinks. I don't think he meant it as it came out, but still shouldn't have done it too far, but his intentions overall are good. Elwood P. Suggins, I understand that the old animal character post that Trump shared was created by someone else long ago, and someone of his staff chose to reshare it. We were never to be a democracy. Republic is what we should be. Democracy is two wolves and a sheep trying to decide what's for dinner. Democracy is mob rule. Okay, well, anyway, with what's going on here, I guess I'm still kind of like assessing what I think. Sorry, I don't want this to turn into a political channel. This live stream is kind of going off the rails. It's not going the way that I thought it was going to go. But I'm happy with like what happened with Maduro. I'm glad that he's not there anymore. Should that have been done? I don't know, because there's been some debate about that. Maybe it's something I need to learn more about, but it's like, I don't know if like lines are being crossed, or if what's happening should happen. Like for me, it's not ideal to have Iran the way that it's been all these years. There's this whole thing about like the protests, whether they're organic or not, because we've talked many times about color revolutions. We've talked about, for example, the Arab Spring. I'm not so sure how organic that was. There's been a lot of like discussion lately by people saying that really that this is Israel's war, not our war so much. I don't know. What does everybody think? Plaid's politics, not sure what to do about any of it, but pray for peace. As we pray continually, no matter the circumstances of life, the Lord will offer us his peace and abiding support. That's from Henry B. Eyring, April General Conference. Well, I do know that we ourselves need to be peacemakers. We need to avoid contention. I do think that we need to talk about things like this. Again, I don't know what is in Trump's heart, but all I know is what actually happened, regardless of the intent, was not good. I don't think that it should have been done. I don't believe him that he thought that this was a doctor. And I just hope that we don't see more of this in the future from him or anybody else. With that statement that we just read from the Vatican, I don't think that there was anything in there that I disagree with. It's interesting when it comes to the Pope, because there was another video that I'd done a while ago where, let's see, Pope Francis and then J.D. Vance, Easter. Do you remember this? So this was, I think, last year. So you remember that Pope Francis, he died the day after Easter. So he died on that Monday, the day after Easter. And it says one of Pope Francis' final meetings before death was with Vance on Easter Sunday. The meeting took place on Easter Sunday. Vance, a Catholic convert, entered the room and reached down for the Pope's hand. "Hello," the vice president said. "Good to see you." Francis was sitting in a wheelchair and his words were inaudible in a video released by the Vatican. Vance's visit was not without political sensitivities. He met with Cardinal Pietro Parolin on Saturday for what the Vatican described as an exchange of opinions. The Catholic Church under Francis' leadership has championed the rights of migrants, while Vance and President Donald Trump have advocated for crackdowns. Vance's office said the vice president and the cardinal discussed their shared religious faith, Catholicism in the United States, the plight of persecuted Christian communities around the world, and President Trump's commitment to restoring world peace. So it's just kind of an interesting thing. I don't know. It just feels like there's something interesting going on kind of between the United States, the Catholic Church, specifically the Pope at that time, Pope Francis, and now this like back and forth between Trump and Pope Leo the 14th. And then Also interesting is this. Let me just pull this up again. I mean, this was a few years before that, back in 2019. But you had this first ever meeting between a president of the church and a sitting pope. The first time it ever happened. And this was in conjunction with the dedication of the Rome-Italy temple. And that event was described by President Nelson and Elder Bednar as a hinge point in the history of the church. And so I'm sorry if I'm not making like a very good cohesive thought here, but I'm just detecting something interesting. We have the first ever meeting between a president of the church and the Pope, and our first ever temple in Italy, and it's in Rome, and it's a hinge point in the history of the church. And then we have Pope Francis. He met with J.D. Vance. They had a discussion about some controversies, and then Pope Francis died the day after Easter, which is very interesting. It feels like that's somehow meant to be. It's not a coincidence. And then the one that replaces him is an American pope. And if I'm not mistaken, it's the first American pope of all time. Right? Let me just double check. Pope Leo is the first American pope. I am pretty sure about that. Yeah, elected May 8th of 2025. That made him the first ever American-born pope in the Catholic Church's history. And then we have, whatever's going on right now between him and President Trump. It's just, I don't know. This whole time that I've done this channel, I've been very interested in the Catholic Church because it feels like they're like a key player somewhere in the background. I've talked about the Catholic Church in a number of different ways. So number one, in the aftermath of the Great Apostasy, like the immediate aftermath of the apostles being martyred and the priesthood keys being lost from the earth, you could say that the one church that took over, what remained, became the Catholic Church. They feel like they have this succession all the way back to Peter, and they've essentially filled that role. And then, of course, we had the Reformation and all these Protestant churches. And aside from the Catholic Church, you have the older, Orthodox churches and stuff. But the Catholic Church really has been the one that has filled that seat. I feel like that's why building a temple in Rome and dedicating it was a hinge point in the history of the church, because it's, in a way, started to change things, to turn things around the way that they should be. Now the church's true authorized church is on the earth, and it's spreading across the earth, including in Rome. I feel like that's why it was a hinge point in the history of the church. Would you agree? And so you have that. I've talked about, in the book of Daniel, it talks about in Daniel's vision, he saw the four beasts. The first one was the Babylonian Empire. The second one was the Persians and Medians. The second one was the Greeks. The fourth one was the Roman Empire. And then out of the Roman Empire, you have these 10 kingdoms that come out. And in Daniel's vision, they're likened to horns. And then there's an 11th horn that comes out, and it's shorter and it's stout and it has a mouth and it speaks blasphemies against God. And a lot of people, especially people outside of the church, will say that that's the single person Antichrist that has not yet appeared. I think there's a whole plethora of theories out there about what the 11th horn is. In our church, I don't know that I've come across an official interpretation for the 11th horn. If there is one, if anything, it's probably just the great and abominable church. The church has said that the great abominable church is not any one specific church, but it's all sorts of religious systems and philosophies and stuff like that. Anything that doesn't point you to Christ is the great and abominable church. But I've wondered if the 10 horns are kingdoms, you have like these 10 kingdoms that come out of the Roman Empire. And if you have an 11th one that's also a horn, well, that would put it in the same class as, these as a kingdom. And it's just interesting that the Vatican is technically its own country. It's a sovereign territory. It's not part of Italy. The Vatican is a micro state. So I'm not trying to attack the Catholic Church. My mom's side of the family, they're all Catholic. They're in Portugal. But I wonder if that could be part of it. And just, I don't know. It just feels like there's interesting things going on with the Catholic Church. Anyway, I'm pretty much just rambling. I'm probably going to wrap this up here in a minute. Let's see. Jason Leroy Wharton says the discouragement of preemptive war is in 3 Nephi chapter 3, 20 through 21. Let's look that up. Scriptures, Book of Mormon, 3 Nephi. Let's see, what was it? Chapter 3, 20 through 21. Okay, it says, now the people said to Gidgidoni, or Gidgidoni, or however you pronounce it, pray unto the Lord, and let us go up upon the mountains and into the wilderness, that we may fall upon the robbers and destroy them in their own lands. But Gidgidoni said unto them, the Lord forbid, for if we should go up against them, the Lord would deliver us into their hands. Therefore, we will prepare ourselves in the center of our lands, and we will gather all our armies together, and we will not go against them, but we will wait till they shall come against us. Therefore, as the Lord liveth, if we do this, he will deliver them into our hands. The question that I have, though, is I don't know if that's like a broad principle in all situations for all countries. But, you could, I mean, this is one thing that could suggest that, though. Maybe you're right. Let me do something really quick. I'm going to go to Grok, and I'm going to see if Grok can provide any statements by any church leaders or any other scriptures that talk about preemptive war. Oh yeah, so it's starting to search, and it does this thing where it kind of it shows you like a little preview as it's like searching different sources, and it showed a scripture from Doctrine and Covenants that I remember that kind of talks about this. It's taking just a second. It's taking a minute. So while we're waiting for it, let me catch up with the chat. Jason Leroy Wharton says, "You're doing great on this live. Sometimes we need to look at politics through a religious lens." Oh, well, thank you. I felt like this live stream was kind of falling apart. Plaid's politics in Utah, they have postponed a popular air show due to quote unquote critical ongoing operations. So it makes you think how much and how long it is going to be going on. Grateful military has better grasp than I do. July 4th, so special this year. So not being military, we can do Just Serve or Family Searches America 2050 opportunities. Darlene Baguli says, "Highly disappointed. I wish you stayed in your lane, sticking to gospel subjects only, not opinions on the latest distraction that the world is throwing at us." Sorry. Plaid's politics from April 2014. And then Elder Oaks gave quote unquote hope for the years ahead address at UVU. There's a transcript on Newsroom of Church. Christ absolutely cares about good governance. Faith First. The thing that's unfortunate is no matter your political affiliation or your like or dislike of the person posting it, is that everyone seems to agree it looks spiritual in nature, elevating self. Oh Lord, my Redeemer just popped on to say hi. Also, that is so sweet that your daughter is on here, Jared. It is. I should have acknowledged more of her chats. I'm sorry about that. Huh? Oh, she's in the other room. Okay, let's see if Grok has come up with anything here. Doctrine and Covenants 98, verse 16. "Therefore, renounce war and proclaim peace, and seek diligently to turn the hearts of the children to their fathers, and the hearts of the fathers to the children." There's also another in that same section. It says, "Behold, I gave this law. Behold, this is the law I gave unto my servant Nephi and thy fathers, Joseph and Jacob and Isaac and Abraham, and all mine ancient prophets and apostles. And again, this is the law that I gave unto mine ancients, that they should not go out unto battle against any nation, kindred, tongue, or people, save I, the Lord, commanded them. And if any nation, tongue, or people should proclaim war against them, they should first lift a standard of peace unto that people, nation, or tongue. And if that people did not accept the offering of peace, neither the second nor the third time, they should bring these testimonies before the Lord." So I don't know, if we apply that to the Iran war, it seems that there's a few things going on. It does seem that there's a sizable portion of the population that wants freedom from the regime, and the regime has cracked down really hard on these innocent people. So that's one thing, is defending the people that have been killed for voicing their opinion. And from what I could tell, it seems like they always did it peacefully. I don't think I heard of any like violent protests in Iran. And then secondly, this like ongoing concern about Iran developing a nuclear weapon and attacking Israel. I guess that's the ultimate concern, as well as Iran orchestrating, all these things across the Middle East through their proxies against Israel. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what I think. I kind of feel like the war is justified, but sorry, it's complicated. I don't know. Cat McDonald, I also voted for Trump, but I've been skeptical of his intentions lately. Plaid's Politics, Church has a topic, Church in Gospel Questions, Religion versus Violence. That might give you something. Grizzly Blue 777, Trump has always been a joker or posting edgy jokes. I find the photo funny, though it is surely sacrilege, but it's because I am certain Trump doesn't literally think he's Christ. This is his MO, mode of operation. Yeah, I think it is. I think that he just, the thing is, I don't know how religious he is himself. I know that he talks about God. He like brings up God a lot, but it may just be to win the support of his voter base. I don't know what he really believes. He did. There is one thing I wanted to bring up. There's something interesting he said one time. Let me see if I can find it. I'm having a hard time finding the quote that I want to share from him. He may have just been joking, but I kind of think he wasn't. If I can just find this. Yeah, here it is. Fox 5. Oh, if you're in that area, if you're in the Washington, D.C. area, there's a special weather statement. So you may want to look into that. It's for Stafford County, Warren County, Northern Fauquier County. I don't know how to pronounce that. But anyway, he said, or here's the title of the article. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to make heaven, Trump tells press on Air Force One. He said, well, okay. In the video posted to YouTube by the White House, Trump responded to a question from Fox News' Peter Doocy about a previous statement he reportedly made, saying he thought ending the war in Ukraine would, quote unquote, help him get into heaven. Quote, I'm being a little cute. I don't think there's anything that's going to get me into heaven. I think I'm maybe not heaven bound, Trump said. I may be in heaven right now as we fly on Air Force One. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to make heaven, but I've made a life a lot better for a lot of people. And then there's this Time article that quotes him. This is an old quote, so of course he could have changed since then, but at least back in 1990, I don't believe in reincarnation, heaven or hell, but we go someplace. Do you know? I cannot for the life of me figure out where. In 1999, well, I think there's a difference between believing in God and organized religion. Number one, I think that, excuse me, I think that God and the belief in God is more important than organized religion. I think organized religion is important in that it keeps people in the straight and narrow. (2015) Can you believe it? Nobody believes I'm Presbyterian. I'm Presbyterian. I'm Presbyterian. I'm Presbyterian. Boy, that's down the middle of the road, folks, in all fairness. During his second inaugural speech, I was saved by God to make America great again. Oh, sorry, let me go back. Okay, August 2024. I do believe in heaven. If I'm good, I'm going to heaven, and if I'm bad, I'm going someplace else. So, I don't know. I want to say that after that attack on him, I want to be careful with the words I choose, but that attack on him in Pennsylvania, that where his ear that got his ear. I want to say, I remember something from back then, like afterwards, where he seemed to indicate that his belief in God was like solidified, or like he got closer to the Lord or something like that. Yeah, let's go to this. Let's go. Plaid Politics says go to church and gospel questions, religion versus violence. Let's do that. I want to see what it says. Let's see. Probably go to gospel library. Topics and questions. And you said religion versus violence. I got it pulled up, and then you said, let's see. What is the church's position on war and military service? Okay, there's just like 4 paragraphs. What is the church's position on war and military service? President Russell Nelson taught, quote, the scriptures strongly condemn wars of aggression, but sustain obligations of citizens to defend their families and their freedoms. Because we believe in being subject to kings, presidents, rulers, and magistrates, in obeying, honoring, and sustaining the law, members of this church will be called into military service of many nations. Now, as members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, what does the Lord expect of us? As a church, we must renounce war and proclaim peace. And the reference for that is the section of Doctrine and Covenants that we were reading from, Doctrine and Covenants 98, verse 16. As individuals, we should follow after the things which make for peace. That's from Romans 14:19. We should be personal peacemakers, end quote. There are situations in which our desire for peace and our obligation to our country seem to contradict. In such situations, members of the church are encouraged to seek the Lord's guidance and follow the inspiration of his Spirit. Some have wondered whether a member of the military who takes the life of an enemy in the course of war is guilty of murder. The church's general handbook teaches that, quote, murder does not include police or military acts in the line of duty, end quote. It also explains that, quote, if death was caused by accident or by defense of self or others, the taking of a human life might not be defined as murder, end quote. The important factor to God is the intent of our heart. The Book of Mormon says of Captain Moroni, he did not delight in bloodshed, and he was considered a great man of God. This example applies to those who serve in the military today. So, sorry, I should put this on the screen. So, I don't know. I guess we would probably all have a different opinion about the Iran war, if it's justified. I feel like on the surface, it is, because I think it's in defense of innocent people. It's in defense of the protesters, because Iran, like I said, really cracked down on the protesters and killed a lot of people. I don't know what would happen if Iran got a nuclear bomb, because I guess what's been said many, many times is that they would use it against Israel. And I mean, I'm not in the military, I'm not in the government, I don't have access to, intelligence. I don't know if that's like really true. Like, would they really? Because I feel like if they did use a nuclear bomb on Israel, that would assure their own destruction, wouldn't it? Or maybe they would feel like it's a religious obligation because they're driven by religious ideology. I just don't know. But, well, and then also you've had all this with like them directing attacks against Israel through its proxies, and that can't go on forever. Scott Burbank. Apparently the Salt Lake Temple spiral lights are on for the first time in 6 years. Oh, wow. Well, that's a good milestone to reach. I'm really excited for next year. I can't wait to go to the temple open house, and I really hope that we all get to participate in the rededication. Let's see. Kat M. McDonald says, yes, I have voted all across the board. I guess, let's see, R, L, and D. So like Republican, Libertarian, and Democrat. Oh, but no G? Have you voted for the Green Party? Isn't that still a thing? Plaid's Politics. Trump has visited with Elder Nelson and First Counselor President Eyring, accompanied by then Bishop Cossé. Yeah, I've shown that on the channel before. There was a time that Trump was at Welfare Square in Salt Lake. Let's see. that would have been during his first term. If you didn't know any better, you might think that this is an AI image. But yeah, there you have. We didn't know it at the time, but we had the future apostle, Elder Casse. To the right is Orrin Hatch. Her name is Bingham, right? Isn't it like Jean Bingham or something? Yeah, Jean B. Bingham. I don't know who he is though. So we got. Let me see. Okay, I don't think it says. So we have from right to left, we have Hatch, and then Elder Gerald Casse, at the time Bishop Casse, Jean B. Bingham, and then President Nelson. This was December 4th, 2017. So, oh my gosh, this was just a couple weeks before. This was just a couple weeks before President Nelson became president of the church. That's kind of interesting. I wonder when, because since that time, I don't know if any church leadership has met with a president of the United States. This may have been the last time. And if that's the case, the last time that our church leadership has met with a president of the United States was just a couple weeks before President Nelson became president of the church. December 4th, 2017. And then to the left is President Eyring. That's really interesting. I never thought about that. Let's go to this picture. It just makes me think about the church's mission to take the gospel to the world and also to interact with world leaders, kings and emperors and presidents, prime ministers. And I just think about these kind of meetings here and what kind of impact that has. What those conversations are like. If there's ever any like private conversations or I don't know, but it's just interesting to see world leaders meeting with church leadership. This picture I feel like is big, along with this one that I show all the time. We have President Holland, Elder Cook, and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. I don't know. Just if this war does turn out to be the final war, if it turns out to be, Gog and Magog, as well as the battles of Armageddon and the siege of Jerusalem, and Netanyahu is the prime minister at the time that this happens, this picture is just going to be priceless. It's probably going to go down in the history books. And then possibly the same with this one too. We have a president of the church who's now passed on, but that was very focused on the second coming. And then we have a member of the first presidency who is still living, and they're meeting with the president of the United States, who is currently, well, the one who started this war, that initiated this war with Iran. It's just super interesting. I can't believe that was just a couple weeks before President Nelson became president of the church. It's just like President Holland and how he became president of the church, and then 2 days later they opened up that time capsule, the 50-year time capsule at BYU, which was sealed when he was president of BYU. Just so interesting. Phil Malia waits. Why did Trump share such an AI pic of himself? Yeah, so let's just do a quick recap. This live stream has been going for a while. It's almost been 2 hours now. So I'm just going to give it to you in a nutshell. So Trump said that he did in fact post it. I initially wondered if it was him or if it was a staffer, because there was another incident where an offensive AI video was shared, and it turned out to be a staffer. It was not Trump. But in this case, Trump took ownership of posting that, and he said that he thought that it was him as a doctor. He said that his intent was to post a picture of himself as a doctor. And of course, let me just go back to it. And of course, to me, and I don't think to anybody else, does that look like a doctor? It looks like, at the very least, a wizard or a prophet at the least. But I think most people would agree that it looks like Jesus Christ, because we're used to seeing Jesus Christ in a red robe. And he's obviously working some kind of magic, sorcery, or blessing, because he has light coming out of his hands, and then he has one of those hands on the forehead of a man who's clearly in the hospital with some kind of condition. And then you have heavenly figures that look like soldiers in the sky. So JD Vance said that it was a joke. Trump said that it was a mistake. He meant to look like, he mentioned like the Red Cross, like he was supposed to depict himself as like a doctor. But it offended a bunch of people, including myself. I understand if it was like a mistake. I understand if like he just like read this situation the wrong way and he thought, oh, this will be a joke. And everybody knows I'm not trying to be disrespectful toward Jesus Christ. But, you know, if he doesn't really have that strong of a relationship with Jesus Christ, or he doesn't realize that this is disrespectful, then I don't know. My point is not to like pass judgment on him. It's between him and God, but this is something that happened, and I just hope that it doesn't happen again. I hope that if it was an innocent mistake, then he'll learn from it and be like, oh yeah, I should probably not do that, because just like I wouldn't do certain things with the American flag, I also should not do that with, you know, Jesus Christ, whether it's using his name or how I talk about him, or depicting myself as him. So, but what happened was it was deleted. But I personally think that he knew. This does not look like a doctor, at least not in the United States. I don't know if this is what doctors look like in other countries, but not here in the United States. Again, I'm sure there's plenty of other times that other presidents have had missteps like this. And in fact, that's something I wanted to look up. Let's see if Grok can find any other times that other US presidents have messed up like this. Have there ever been any? Okay, hold on. Let's do it like this. Just sorry, just a second. I got to word this right. Okay. I just finished wording my question, and let's see what it comes up with. It's probably going to take a minute. Aaron Pena says the poll doesn't make sense. So the AI image that Trump posted, that he said that he posted, the question is, was it intentional? Did he intentionally make himself to look like Jesus Christ? Or was that unintentional, as he claims? He intended to come across as a doctor rather than Jesus Christ. Was it intentional or was it unintentional? G Baby says, pretty sure he did something similar in May 2025, depicting himself as the Pope as well. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's right. May 25, Trump, Pope. Thanks for reminding me about that. Yep. Let me, okay. Well, I'll show this. This is on Instagram. Okay. So, yeah, this is real. He did, or this was posted. Let me just do a little bit more research. Let me make sure. Let me see if I can find the backstory there. I want to see, hear both sides of the story. Was it a staffer in that case? Oh, dang it. Okay, when was this posted? May 2nd, 2025. Got to turn off my ad blocker if I want to read this article. It's fine. Where is it? Where's the article? Where'd it go? I guess I can't go to that website. Okay, so we're looking at Reuters. Trump posts AI generated photo of himself as Pope, drawing internet outrage. It's by Andrea Shalal. Summary: Trump and his wife Melania attended funeral of Pope Francis. Oh, I didn't know that. Image shows Trump in white paper vestments. Do you mean papal? Is that supposed to be papal vestments? Former Italian Prime Minister blasts shameful post. President Donald Trump posted an AI-generated photo showing himself as the Pope ahead of this week's gathering of cardinals to choose a new leader of the 1.4 billion strong Catholic Church. And just days after, he joked he would, quote unquote, like to be Pope. Trump, who is not a Catholic and does not attend church regularly, posted the image on his Truth Social platform late Friday, less than a week after attending the funeral of Pope Francis, who died at 88 last month. The article I wanted to show you, I guess it's because, okay, now it says that I'd have to subscribe, but this is from the Palm Beach Post, and the article is titled "They Can't Take a Joke." Days after Trump defends viral AI photo or Pope photo, Pope Leo is chosen. So, not a big fan of that either. I'm honestly not a fan of his profile picture, with where it has like the American flag on his face, because it's that's something that you would expect from somebody that, you know, goes to bars, someone that has like all sorts of like bumper stickers on the back of their truck, and you know, it's like, it's not, I feel like it's not appropriate for the president of the United States. It looks aggressive. It looks not dignified. Like none of these things are dignified. Again, you know, it's between him and the Lord. If he really thought that he was being depicted as a doctor here, I don't think that's true. I think he knew what he was doing, but I think that it was a miscalculation. He didn't think that it would upset that many people. But I don't like this. I don't like mockery or making fun of other religions or being insensitive or, you know, thoughtless, light-minded. I feel like this is an example of light-mindedness, because you're not thinking about how your actions, your words, your images are affecting others. I mean, could you imagine? Look at it this way. Look, how would you feel if he posted a picture of him as president of the church? Like, say that like he did an AI image of him, like, you know how they do the official portraits for like the first presidency, like, look like this, first presidency portrait. So imagine, let's go with this one. Let's go with President Oaks and his first presidency. Why is it small? Ugh. Okay, finally. So imagine if Trump took a picture, like an AI picture like this, and you had President Christopherson, you had President Eyring, but then Trump was sitting in this chair. I feel like that is the equivalent of what he did here. If I was Catholic, And I'm sure that I would be a devout Catholic if I was. I would not be happy with this. And I definitely would not be happy with this if he did that. Like okay, and add this to it. Imagine, you have President Nelson who passed away in September, and let's say that Trump went to his funeral, and then a week or two later he posts a picture of himself in a portrait like this as the new president of the church. Like, that would be pretty bad, wouldn't it? Almost like insensitive. Like, it's already kind of in bad taste because someone just passed away. But then on top of that, it's the religious leader of a church. Lisa Frampton says he doesn't see himself as Christ. That's preposterous. He felt like a quote unquote savior. He's healing the nation. Why is it hard to understand? Well, we're talking about the image that he made where it looks like he's Jesus Christ. And then Lisa says, I've been reading and listening to him and those closest to him cover it. Glenn Beck asked him to take it down and told him why. It makes him mad. Okay, yeah. Aaron Pena. Oh yeah, I believe he posted this when they were still in the process of selecting the new pope. G Baby. I believe he posted it shortly after Pope Francis passed away. Lisa P. Frampton. His humor is not appropriate and certainly is not politically correct. John and Hannah Moses. This is intentional to put something out there. Is a manipulative tactic. He plants an idea, then takes it away. Ego-driven, wants people to worship him. Some do. Wants to be the savior of mankind. Well, I mean, we don't know that, right? He could. Someone was saying earlier, well, you can't diagnose him as a narcissist. Yeah, I know that I can't. But you can say at least that he definitely has an ego. Does he go as far as thinking that he's the savior of the world? I don't know. Only he knows. As far as I know, he hasn't said that, but the way that he talks is in such a way that he's like the best thing that's ever come along for both the United States and the world. So, I don't know. He doesn't really talk in a way that I really like because it feels like it's driven by pride mostly, even if he is doing good things. Lisa P. Frampton says, I love that profile pic. He's relating to Americans and he's representing the country to others. He's made fun of fat people and ugly people and stupid people. He's an offensive, aggressive, politically incorrect personality. It's how he's gotten to where he's at. He's mostly all grit. I mean, those aren't Christ-like actions, right? Or attributes to make fun of people. Aaron Pena, I wouldn't be so offended. You can choose to be offended, but also choose not to be offended. That's true. But if anybody mocks Christ, that's upsetting. And I think that you should be offended. Christ is the savior of mankind. Just like we treat the American flag with respect, or the flag of any nation, those things that we hold most dear to us, the thing that we hold the most dear to us, I hope, is Jesus Christ. And so I think it's appropriate to be upset when something that you hold sacred is belittled or tampered with in this way. It's not appropriate. There is a time where you can have a righteous anger at something. Lisa P. Frampton, if Trump did that, then I'd want to actually understand the why behind it. He did do it. You may not have been here when we covered it, but he did own the fact that he did that. And then Lisa says, then I would cast judgment based on that. Lisa P. Frampton, he says everything is the best thing ever, not himself. The things he does, the things other people do, everything is the best thing ever in his description. Life with Grace says blasphemy, full stop. Let's check in on the poll. The question was Trump's AI image intentional? Meaning, did he intentionally mean to portray himself as a messianic figure, Jesus Christ, or did he intentionally do that, or was it unintentional? There's 131 votes right now, and 79% say yes, it was intentional, and 21% say no. Vera Lovelace, Jared, you always say to do your research. He said at the news conference that someone sent it to him and he thought it was him as a doctor. And so he posted it because he feels he's helping. So if you saw a picture of that, of yourself, would you be like, oh yeah, that's me as a doctor? Because doctors wear red robes that look like Jesus Christ, and they have light coming from their hands, and they put their hands on patients' heads like they're blessing people. Probably not. So, sorry, I mean, you don't have to believe the same way that I do, but I think it was intentional. Aaron Pena, I don't know that I would call what he posted as mocking Jesus. If he were stating it as he does, feel like he is healing this country as Jesus is the master healer, then is that mocking? I think that it's insensitive. And anytime that you put yourself as though you are Jesus Christ, yeah, I think that's blasphemous. It may not be mocking, but it's like, no, you are not putting yourself in the same space as Jesus Christ, or like as though you are him. You know, like you don't need to depict yourself as Jesus Christ and in his clothes. Okay, well, this is just great. So I think we're going to go ahead and just move on. I don't know if there's anything else I wanted to share. I did repost some posts where I guess there's this historic meeting going on right now between Israel and Lebanon. The first time since 1983, Israel and Lebanon are talking directly. And of course, they're talking about what's going on with Israel and Hezbollah. So I don't know what's going to come out of it. Let me go to my home screen and see if there's any news that's come out as we've been talking about this, about Trump and his post. I'm very curious to see what's going to happen with Hezbollah. If Israel is going to successfully dismantle it. I don't know how this war is going to come to an end. Things have kind of come to an end in Gaza, but I don't know how this thing ends with Iran and Hezbollah and the other proxies. From Times of Israel, Lebanese president talks with Israel mark beginning of the end of Lebanon's suffering. Well, that sounds hopeful. Not seeing anything else. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all I want to do. So we're now a little bit over 2 hours. Let me just go back to the chat one more time. Yeah, there's nothing else here that I want to cover. So, all right. Well, thanks for joining me. If you're just joining now, you can always rewind and watch from the beginning. We talked about a lot of different things. But I just hope that this doesn't become a trend. And it kind of has a little bit. He did that post of himself as the Pope. Now this one looking like Jesus Christ. At least the majority of people think that he looks like he's wearing Jesus Christ-like clothing. So I hope that we don't see any more of this. Again, I voted for Trump. That doesn't mean that you have to always cover for the person that you voted for, that they can do no wrong. You should not do life that way. We need to acknowledge when we do things that are wrong and just admit them and then learn from them and don't do them again. You don't have to cover for every single thing that your party does or your favorite politicians. You need to be attached to reality and be like, you know what? I'm not proud that my party did that. I'm not proud that this person did that. They're human. Hopefully they don't do it again, and just take a holistic approach. But we shouldn't become entrenched and never accept any blame or any fault, and pretend like we do nothing wrong. We need to learn from our mistakes. So hopefully he doesn't do this anymore. Okay, well, that's going to be it for this one. I'll talk to you guys later.